One more.
Hi, Dr. Peterson. First of all, kudos for mentioning Magnolia. It's one of my favorite movies.
It's a great movie, man.
So a few months ago, I had a dream, and when I told someone this dream, they suggested that I read the book of Revelations.
Oh yeah, that's a bad dream, that.
There's a lot of interesting stuff in that book. The thing that I found really interesting right off the bat was the state is represented in two instances as female, positively and negatively. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that in the context of, like in Maps of Meaning, you often talk about the state just as male or as masculine.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to comment on your T-shirt. That's a lobster hierarchy with Horus at the top, isn't it?
It's even better. It's the eye of a lobster. It's the best one that we found.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. That one really cracked me up when I saw it. I really thought that was funny, man. Yeah. And when my graduate students used to meet, when I first talked about this lobster stuff, we'd meet for breakfast, and they were a very combative, snappy group of graduate students, and they were always trying to one-up each other with jokes, and whenever one really pulled a good joke on another, they'd stand up and like It was really funny. Okay, let's see. Can I answer that question? You know how if you look at a room, every color that you see is dependent on every other color in the room, right? Your eyes adjust to that. So for example, if you're in a room bathed with red light, your eyes will in some sense remove the red so you can still see the colors. Okay. So your perception is to some degree dependent on context. And that's one of the things that makes the symbolic interpretations tricky, because to see how something is represented symbolically, you actually have to look at the broader narrative context within which the symbols are embedded. So for example, let me see if I can get this right. If the story has an island and an ocean, then the ocean is often symbolically feminine and the island is symbolically masculine. But if the story is the island and the sky, then the island often becomes symbolically masculine and feminine, and the sky is symbolically masculine. And you might think, well, how can the island be masculine and feminine at the same time? And the answer is, well, it depends on what it's being contrasted with and why. And so that's part of the key to the change in symbolism in the book of Revelation. And so it isn't inevitably the case that culture is represented with the patriarchal symbolism, but it's most commonly the case. So, you know, there is Mother Russia, for example. I guess it would depend to some degree too on what your metaphor is for the state, because the state can be an all-providing mother, or it can be a judgmental father. And it seems that we tilt more towards the father with regards to terminology relating to the state. And I think the reason for that is because I think human hierarchies, like chimp hierarchies, are fundamentally masculine. The fundamental hierarchy is masculine. Even with chimps, there's a female hierarchy, but it's like the female hierarchy is nested within the male hierarchy. It's not the case with bonobos exactly, but I think it is the case with human beings. And so I think we have a strong proclivity to masculinize the state. But that doesn't mean there aren't exceptions. And symbolic representations are very slippery that way, because you can't stamp an entity with a symbol, because that would be the same as just giving it a name, right? And you can't have a dictionary of symbols where you say, well, you know, a house always means the psyche. It's like, no, sometimes the house means the psyche, but it depends on the story. And so you have to take the entire structure of the narrative into account to determine why those particular symbolic representations are being used. What I offered in Maps of Meaning was kind of a shorthand. You know, generally speaking, there's nature, positive and negative, usually feminine. Generally speaking, there's culture, positive and negative, usually masculine. And generally speaking, there's the individual, Good and evil, right? Heroic and adversarial, often typically represented as masculine, especially in adventure stories. But it's a schema and it's an interpretive guide and not a set of hard and fast rules, because you're in the domain of metaphor and it's a slippery domain. So, do you have any luck figuring out your dream?
Sorry?
Did you have any luck figuring out your dream?
At least in some parts. I think there's different levels of analysis. I mean, one was pretty obvious. But.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone.